I'm just going to actually show my whiteboard today and go over some things. It's early in the morning and I still have to work out and cut my grass, but I wanted to take some time and do a quick live stream over some specific information regarding the Missouri real estate exam. Now, by the way, I will be live streaming tonight at around 7 p.m. Be sure and subscribe to my YouTube channel, okay? So I want to be sure and do that. You can subscribe right there, and that will get you set up, and you'll be able to join us tonight for that. So love for you to join tonight, 7 o'clock. We'll be going over the national content. But for this morning, I have a lot of people who are having some issues, not necessarily global real estate school students. I actually have a lady that purchased some information from me. She wanted I offer some information for state-specific courses and would love for everybody to go through my school, but I get it. Sometimes they go through another school. And she had gone through another school, could not pass her exam, needed some help from me. And so I'm helping her with that right now. And so she said, John, I'm having some trouble with business conduct and practices. And I hear a lot of people who actually have trouble with this specific part of the rules and regulations. And so you can find all of the various items that are talked about here. Some of these are specific for the broker examination. However, I think it's always good, whether you're preparing for the salesperson or the brokers, to just know all of it, because you never know if part of that information could help you answer another question. So that's what we're going to look at, and want to just start with place of business. So I'm going to bring my board up here, and we will go right over here to this first item, which is called place of business. Now, I'll be highlighting some things and just want you to take good notes, okay? We're going to go through this together, and I'm going to choose yellow because I think that might be a little better. We'll move that up a notch there to 3. So it's very important for you to understand regarding a place of business, and most states are this way, and you can see here that every resident broker, except those who have placed their licenses on inactive status or those not actively engaged in real estate business, shall maintain a regularly established place of business in this state, which shall be open to the public during usual business hours or regular slated intervals. Now, some interesting points here that I'm picking up, and I'm just going to underline these, I think would be best. So now notice this word resident, key word there, every resident broker. And then there is an exception to the rule. Those who have either done what? They've placed their licenses on inactive status, or if you're not actively engaged in the real estate business, you don't have to maintain a place of business. Now, I have my place of business in my home, in my basement, and I have a separate entrance, and I have hours by appointment only. And I still do real estate business, so I think it's good for me as an instructor, school owner, and I have lots of clients and past clients and customers who want to do business with me, so I still do business. However, let's just say I sold my real estate school and decided I didn't want to sell real estate anymore, and I was retiring. I don't want to do that. I have no intentions to retire or sell my school. But let's just say I wanted to do that, and I'm a broker and I'm not engaged in the real estate business. I would be exempt from having an office. So a couple of key points there. Now, and notice it says a regularly established place of business in where? In this state. So you couldn't have one in Kansas and count that. It needs to be in this state, needs to be open to the public. Now notice here, they love these questions. No salesperson may be associated with a broker not maintaining a regularly established place of business, or a broker not actively engaged in the real estate business. So, could you have a question on the exam that said broker Joe had had no business or no office location, and had Mary and Sue working for him, and he wasn't really active in the business? Could Mary and Sue work for him? Well, no. Why? Because broker Joe has no place of business and he's not really actively engaged in the business. So you look for these questions, and if they tell you somebody's just putting their license there so that they can still generate some income as a broker, and they don't want to have a place of business and they're just letting someone hang out or hang their license with them, no, you cannot do that, okay? Now, this rule does not apply to a broker salesperson or broker partners, broker associates, or broker officers of a firm which maintains a regular place of business. So just understand and read the questions that broker salespersons, broker partners, broker officers, they do not need a place of business. So Christina, thank you. She's watching us on YouTube. By the way, you can add your comments if you have questions or comments. Those should pop right in to the when using, well, I mean, they should pop into the comments, but anyway, I'll go to the chat mode over here and see if we have any comments. But if you have any questions or comments, regardless on what platform you're watching, you can put those into the system and we can go over those. So make sure you understand that. Now, number two, again, we're talking about place of business. And right here, a broker's business sign of sufficient size to identify it and bearing the name under which the broker or the broker's firm is licensed, or the regular business name shall be displayed outside of the broker's regular place of business. So in my example, I mentioned to you that my office is located in my home. It's located in my basement. I have a separate entrance. I have a sign that says outside that says Mayfield Real Estate Inc., hours by appointment only. Now, some people might say, well, does the city allow that? Well, I'm not really. I mean, I don't have traffic coming in and out. I don't have a sign. I'm just operating in my basement, and I only have two people who work for me, a husband and wife, and I have a referral company here that my daughter and son-in-law are actively involved with. Actually, Dan, my son-in-law, still has his active license and is a realtor and works with me. But again, the city sends me a sales license, and I fill it out and pay the fee, and they know my address, but I'm not actively, like, I don't have cars coming in and out, and I always meet people in town or whatever. I was audited by the Real Estate Commission, and they audited me in my basement of my home, and there was no mention, and everything was fine regarding my business location. Now, if I wasn't active in the business, and again, I would look for those questions where they're trying to say a broker who wants to go to Florida and wants to allow people to just be licensed underneath him or her and earn commission checks and fees by allowing them to just have their license with the broker, and that broker has no location in Missouri, is that okay? And the answer is no, because right here, it tells us no salesperson may be associated with a broker not maintaining a regularly established place of business, or a broker not actively engaged in the business. Now, just reading here in the rules, that would also be applicable to no broker salesperson, okay? No broker salesperson could be associated. No broker associate. You could probably have a broker, and I don't think you'll see that on the question on the exam, but just understand that question. And there's been a question like that where a broker wants to go to Florida and earn money and so forth and so on. Okay, you could see a question right from there, and you should be able to answer that now. Now let's go down to broker supervision and improper use of license and an office. And I like to just, if it's okay with you, I want to just dig into this because you want to pass the test, and we need to just pull the pieces of the license law out. And you can see we're looking at a current copy here that they've got on the website. So just I want us to go through this. So the purpose of this rule explicitly prohibits a broker from using his or her license to permit a salesperson to function as a real estate brokerage firm, okay? So let's look at this. Individual brokers, designated brokers, and office managers supervising brokers shall be responsible for supervising the real estate related activities, including in the protection of any confidential information as defined in the license law, of all licensed and unlicensed persons associated with them, whether in an individual capacity or through a corporate entity, association, or partnership. A broker shall not be held responsible for inadequate supervision if, okay, so in other words, the broker will not be responsible. So a broker shall not be held responsible for inadequate supervision if, and they love these questions, okay? So, and again, right here where it talks about individual brokers, designated brokers, and office managers and supervising brokers shall be responsible for all of the real estate activities, all right? For all of the real estate activities, including the protection of any confidential information. We talk about what's confidential and what's not. I mean, confidential information is anything that your client has told you that they do not want you to tell the buyer or the buyer's agent, and vice versa. Confidential information, if you are working with a buyer, would be information the buyer has told you that they don't want you to tell the seller or the seller's agent. And let me tell you what, agents mess this up all the time. Like, I tell this story about a house I sold a few years ago, and my people really liked it, and I'm a buyer's agent, and I'm in the house, and I know my buyers are going to make an offer, and the house is empty, and my buyers are asking me, wonder why the house is empty. And I call the other agent, and I asked the agent that. I said, why? We're just curious, what happened? Why is the house empty? And the other agent tells me, oh, they were transferred for a job, and they have 2 house payments, and they really need to help sell the house really bad, and just, on and on and on. And I'm like, well, first of all, did you have the permission from your client, the seller, to tell me that information. Because if you didn't, you just gave out confidential information that could hurt your client's negotiating procedure. And so that's all covered in here. Now, this little item here, and you can see this, they love to pull questions out of this type of stuff, okay? So a broker shall not be held responsible for inadequate supervision if, there's the key word there, okay? Let's take a look at these. Well, a licensed, whoops, I didn't want to do that. I'm going to get rid of that. If, come back here, well, you wouldn't be responsible, and this goes for any office manager, supervising broker, designated broker, if a licensed or unlicensed person violates a provision of Chapter 339. That's an exam question right there. Chapter 339 is what? We refer to it as the, I have no idea, that was doing that the other day, the license law. Okay, well, my board has frozen on me, and my apologies here. We will, okay. So, Chapter 339, just remember, I'm going to abbreviate, is the license law. Okay? Probably need to see if there's an update for that, for my board here. So, if a licensed or unlicensed person violates a provision of the license law or the rules for it in conflict with the supervising broker's specific written policies or instructions. Now, if you're a broker, you need to have a written policies and procedures manual. And when I was actively had 50 agents working for me and running my real estate office, the weekly sales meetings had an agenda, and part of that agenda always had a little part of our policy and procedures manual. Everyone got a copy of that. It belonged to Mayfield Real Estate, but I wanted to make sure I went over that at each sales meeting. And also, I had my agents take attendance, and so they had to sign in for each sales meeting. Why? This is a good example right here. If one of my agents violated the license law, and I specifically had that in my policy and procedures manual, and I could go back and show the real estate commission, or my supervising or branch broker could go back and show the real estate commission that, look, we have this in our policy and procedures manual. By the way, the thing this person has violated, they were in attendance at my sales meeting on this date, and they knew better. So I can now have proof and show the real estate commission that I cover this in my policy and procedures manual, and they knew better. And what does the license law tell us? We studied it right here. It says a broker shall not be held responsible for inadequate supervision if you had that in your written policy and procedures manual, okay? Now, again, they're going to test you on this. Number 2, reasonable procedures have been established to verify that the adequate supervision was being performed. They love a question on the exam. It's been on there, and it really gives instructors and myself and other instructors heartburn, because we're like, this is just, this is kind of goofy, but sometimes brokers do this. Here's the question. the broker has a branch office that's miles away or has 2 or 3 offices with a lot of agents. Can the broker manage both offices? Well, you have to really dig into this question and ask yourself, and did they give you enough information to where you could adequately say, yes, I think there were reasonable procedures that had been established to verify adequate supervision. These questions are worded really challenging, but there's going to be some little bit of information in there that will tip you off to say, I don't think that's adequately being supervised by that broker. And so the answer would be no, they couldn't manage both offices. However, they might give you information in that question that really helps you understand that, yeah, I think they could supervise, but it could tell you in the question that the broker was going over there every day or once a week or whatever. Again, read that and ask yourself, I think that would be adequately supervised. But if it says occasionally went over to check on the other branch office, I don't know if that would qualify as being reasonable procedures. So you're just going to have to read those and ask yourself. And let me tell you what, if you just get a gut feeling to say, I don't think that's reasonable, that's what I would go with. So that's an exclusion, though. You could have reasonable procedures established that would verify adequate supervision. When I had 3 branch offices, I was a branch manager for each office, but I went there several times a week to each office. And we all came together as one office for our weekly sales meetings. I felt like I had reasonable procedures put in place. So read those questions carefully, and I think you'll be able to, and read them 2 or 3 times, and it'll come out at you what you really want to answer there. The third item here is that the broker, upon learning of the violation, attempted to prevent or mitigate the damages. Attempt or mitigate the damages. So what would be a good way that you could kind of figure that out? Well, you need to, I was just checking something on my YouTube channel, and so that's good. On Global Real Estate, on our Global Real Estate School website, over on the side under Global Real Estate TV, I had embedded a widget there, so anytime I go live, people can see that. So that is up and live, and that's kind of cool. So I'm glad that's working correctly there. But back to this question, when the broker learns of a violation and they immediately attempted to prevent or mitigate the damage, that could cause, you found out about it and you put a stop to it. I think that would be pretty self-explanatory. If the broker did not participate in the violation, the broker did not ratify the violation, and the broker did not attempt to avoid learning of the violation. In other words, you kind of hear somebody talking about it and you say, wait, don't be quiet, I don't want to even know about it, don't even tell me about it, and you walked in the other room. Or you found out about it and you're like, yeah, by golly, that person was always a pain in the rear, it serves them well. No, you can't do that. So that's not good, okay? So let's go on with these. Again, we're talking about items for supervising brokers and the broker. A broker shall not permit a licensed and unlicensed persons affiliated with the broker to establish and carry on real estate brokerage business for their own benefit, directly or indirectly, where the broker's primary interest is the receipt of a fee or other valuable consideration for the use of the broker's license by others. So you can't do that. You can't let somebody else do business under your name for a fee or valuable consideration. And again, that would be an example of where you're letting agents just kind of work underneath your brokerage and closing deals at the title company, and you're collecting part of the commission. You're saying like, hey, you keep 90% and I'll keep 10%. We know commissions are negotiable, but you got this gig where you're laying on the beach in Florida and you got a dozen or more agents back doing business for you, and you're not really managing them. And again, you don't have in this case, you could have an office that you own free and clear, and you're like, yeah, just use the office. All I want you to do is keep good records and send me my money every time you close a deal. Well, you can't do that, okay? So that's not allowed. When the broker has no control or only nominal control of the business affairs conducted under the business license, or is only normally associated with the business. Again, this is going to get back with what we talked to earlier about maintaining an office. Or that question, and there has been that question about the broker lives in Florida and lays on the beach and comes back every 6 months or 8 months and deposits, make sure all of his money's deposited in the account. You can't do that, okay? Right here, you got to be in control and managing the agents. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Appointments of designated agents. Let's talk about this. Appointments of designated agents and designated transaction brokers under the license law, and that's the agency portion, shall be entered into by the designated broker or office manager, supervising broker on behalf of that broker, and affiliated licensees. So you have to make appointments of designated agents and designated transaction brokers by either the designated broker, so in Mayfield Real Estate Inc., that would be me, or if I had an office manager or a supervising broker, they could make that appointment. And I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. But what I want you to understand is this, right here, don't forget, only, even if they say office manager or a supervising broker, they have to have some type of a broker license. So they must have some type of a broker license. Let's read on to 4 or 5, and then I'll try to clear this up for you, okay? 4 says appointments of designated agents and designated transaction brokers under the license law. And again, this is part of the agency 339820, shall be made in a written agreement for brokerage services or other written notice to the client or party, unless such appointment is presumed pursuant to the license law. Now, let me move over here out of the way, and let's just go way over here and get some space over here on the side. And talk about transaction broker. And I hope I don't get this. That's what I was hoping I would get. Transaction broker. What I'm really wanting to talk about, not transaction broker, and I apologize, is this appointment of designated. You know what I'm going to do? Just for fun, as we are live streaming here, let's just go into a Word document, and I will try. I have another board here, and maybe I will not have that issue Well, I need my frog board. Frogg. I think well, I'm sorry. I was just trying to. I want to go to all apps, and I just apologize that I get this stupid flat frog. Maybe that's why I just want to see if this is my Dell board or if that's the software I'm using, the whiteboard software. So we'll try a new board here, and I think that I can. There we go. So we'll see if we have the same issues here. So we're talking about an appointment of a designated agent. And remember, and we talk about this in the Missouri portion of the course. If I come back over here to where we were, just bring you back over here so we're all on the same page here. We're talking about this section right here, which is the appointments of designated agents and designated transaction brokers. Okay? Same thing down here. Now, this first paragraph, number 3, just says the appointment of designated agents or designated transaction brokers under the license law, the section 3. And they're not going to ask you that on the exam, okay? That's just for reference, so don't worry about that. Shall be entered into by the designated broker. So in my company, I'm the broker who has to make the designated call, okay? If you could have an office manager or a branch office manager, a supervising broker, they can make that designation as well. And notice number 4 says that these appointments need to be in writing unless it's presumed otherwise, all right? So back over to the flat frog board. Try to say that 3 or 4 times. So we know the appointment has to be made by either the broker or the office manager, and we know that even though it says an office manager, they need some type of a broker's license, or it could be a supervising broker, or it could be the branch manager. You know, they could have that listed in any way. Lots of terms there. So the connection I want you to know is this appointment needs to be can be made by any one of these people right here. All right, so the appointment. Why are we doing an appointment, or what's this all about? I mean, what's the whole thing about an appointment? Well, the reason we need to do an appointment is because sometimes, let's just think in terms of an office, and I'm going to do a new page here. When I had 3 offices and I had around 35 to 40 agents, at one time we were up between 40 and 50 agents in my office. What you have in a situation like that is you have an agent, and I'm just going to call her Mary. And by the way, I'm just using names. If any of my old agents are watching and you're like, hey, my name's Mary, was he talking about me? Because I'm thinking of a Mary who worked for me. No, I'm just using names as an example, okay? And let's just say I also had an agent named Jim. Now, Mary works for the seller, or pardon me, has a listing. So she's a client for the seller. And Jim has a buyer's agency agreement. Now, keep in mind, Mary and Jim are both under Mayfield Real Estate. And normally, not normally, every broker has to have an agency policy. If I come back over here to the Missouri Real Estate Commission and we go to forms, I believe it is, general information, and broker disclosure form. So let's pull this up. Here's the broker's disclosure form, and this is on the Missouri examination. It's a great form to read, and I go over it in the course, and I also go over it in the practice course. But this is a form every broker has to use. And it says here, Missouri law does not prohibit written agency agreements which provide for duties exceeding that of a limited agent described in this pamphlet. So you, after you get your license, have to give one of these pamphlets to the buyer and the seller. And notice here that, and I love to, as most of you know, I'm kind of a visual person, so I like to use visuals. So your brokerage has to check. Well, we offer seller's agency. This thing needs to be calibrated here. So I think I have to go up a little higher. So we offer seller's agency. Let's say we don't do rentals, so we don't work with landlords. We offer buyer's agency. We don't work with tenants, so we're not going to check that, right? We don't offer subagent, okay? So we do not offer subagency. And I need to close a window out. There's a guy that's getting ready to live stream that I had open there. But we do not offer subagency. Do we allow disclosed dual agency? Yeah, we could mark that right there. Do we offer designated agency? Well, at that time, there was a time I did not offer that. Do I offer transaction broker? Yes. And so these would be the only boxes that we check. So notice we don't offer designated agency here. Let's go back over to our example in the office here with Jim and Mary. If we did not offer designated agency, the way we would have to follow under the law, going back over here to what we have checked, the way we would have to follow this is everyone in the office would be a client, would be an agent for all clients we entered into agency agreements with, whether they were sellers or buyers. Okay? Now, Mary and Jim are in my office, right? Let's say Jim, he's working with the buyers, writes a contract on Mary's listing. Well, remember over here, Mary and Jim fall in underneath here, don't they? And when Mary got this listing, everybody in the office was a client for Mary's sellers. Well, when Jim entered into the buyer's agency agreement, everybody in the office now became a client for Jim's buyers. So if Jim writes a contract on Mary's listing, then this right here, and I'm going to try to, is what we have. And my pin's not, but do you see that there? We actually, that little thing doesn't work that great. But what I want you to understand is that, not a designated agent, that moved on me. What I want you to understand is they would be disclosed dual agents. That's the proper. You get it there, right? I won't. So this gets into all the confidential information, and actually, it says over here, let's see if I can, it tells you right here. Try to really blow this up so you can see it. I'm looking at disclosed dual agency. With the written consent of all parties, and you do that through your listing agreement and your buyer's agreement, both the seller and the buyer or the landlord and their tenant, so everybody here, okay? A disclosed dual agent may disclose any information to either party that the licensee gains that is material to the transaction. The basement leaks. There was a fire in the attic. The buyer quit their job or went out and bought a new car, and they may not qualify for the loan now. That's material to the transaction, okay? That's not confidential. That can physically make a big deal to the transaction. If you get that material, so in a disclosed dual agent, you got to disclose that. You got to disclose that in any type of situation if it's a material fact to the transaction. But notice right below that, a dual agent may not disclose information that is considered confidential, such as the buyer tenant will pay more than the purchase price or lease rate. Now, what happens here, I'm going to go back over here to the Flat Frog. There we go. What I found happening in my office was if Jim wrote a contract on Mary's, they're actually now kind of competing against each other, and there was conflict, and they really weren't acting like disclosed dual agents, okay? Or perhaps they were disclosing information that they shouldn't have because they were, Jim's representing the buyers and Mary's representing the seller. And so I found that we had this big problem. And so what I went from doing was, instead of allowing this situation here, I got rid of this setup and I went to what is called designated agency, where I would appoint Mary as the seller's agent, and I would appoint Jim as the buyer's agent. Now, why did we go to that? Because it only made sense that Mary got the listing agreement and knows these people. These folks may be the best of friends with Jim, and maybe they go to church together, or their kids play softball or whatever else, and Jim doesn't know the sellers, never met the sellers, but Jim is very good friends with the buyers. Now, if we go back over here, a dual agent may not disclose information that is considered confidential, such as the buyer tenant will pay more than the purchase price, the seller landlord will accept less than the asking price. In my old setup, right here, if Mary said to Jim, well, Jim, they can come down 10,000, but I just don't think, they can go any lower than that. That's confidential information Jim has, and Jim theoretically should not give that information to the buyer's agent. Why? Because they were disclosed dual agents in this scenario. And it could be vice versa. And so they were disclosed dual agents. That information should have stayed between Mary and Jim. But remember, I said Jim may not even know the sellers, but he's very good friends with the buyer. And so what if Jim goes and tells the buyers that information under the old scenario? Well, Jim's violated his trust with the sellers, because Jim is actually an agent under this scenario for the seller, and they're a disclosed dual agent, and it just kind of created all these other problems. And so what I found was better was to go to designated agency, where I make the appointment that Mary would represent sellers and Jim would represent buyers. And some of you might be saying, well, gosh, John, how do you make that appointment? Well, it's right in the listing agreement, okay? And there's a blank that talks about designated agency, and right inside the designated agency, right inside the listing agreement, it says who we're appointing as a designated agent. And of course, the person taking the listing would just put that information in there. So it's all done through your contracts that you have. So it's all done right inside your forms, okay? So we've discovered that little issue is with this software program. And I'm going to try it. Okay, all right inside the forms. All right. So, as a long, drawn-out explanation, but hopefully it helped you with some agency situations and the Missouri Broker Disclosure Form that does not have to be signed, but does have to be given to all consumers. And you can't change or alter the form. You can just put your brokerage name, business name that you're using, address, phone number, okay? I think they're okay if you put the website address on there, but you can't alter the broker disclosure form. So that appointment's made through is through the broker or the branch manager or office manager, and the appointments need to be made in writing. And again, that's normally done through the forms right there. So number 5 says individual brokers, designated brokers, and office managers supervising brokers shall not be considered to be a dual agent or a transaction broker solely because such broker makes an appointment under the license law. So I could go back over here to my example and just remind you, well, that's not what I want, that in this case, when I made these appointments, so it's me making the appointments, it doesn't put me in a position of a dual agent or a transaction broker, okay? Just because I make those appointments, that's not considering me to be a dual agent or a transaction broker solely because the broker makes an appointment. All right. However, when such broker supervises the licensees for both sides of a transaction, that broker will be a dual agent or a transaction broker upon learning of confidential information about either party to a transaction or being consulted by licensees involved in the transaction. So back over here now, because I made the appointment, it doesn't mean I'm a dual agent or a transaction broker. But if Mary consults with me or I learn of confidential information, now what does the rule say? Well, it says in that case, I'm going to be considered a dual agent or a transaction broker, okay? Also, when the broker supervises the licensees representing or assisting one side or the transaction and personally represents or assists the other side, that broker will be a dual agent or a transaction broker. So in this example, if this was not Jim and this was me, then I would be considered a dual agent. And all of these items that we discussed over here apply for disclosed dual agent, okay? All right, so that should wrap us up with that part. Now, I want to do just a couple more here. We've been going a little while, and I'll come back and may try to do this a little bit later today because I want to finish up all of this conduct and actually going to be digging into some of the other states that we're approved in as well. But let's talk about branch offices for a moment. If a broker maintains a branch office, each shall be operated under the same name and license as the parent office, and every such place of business shall comply with the provisions of 2250-810. Well, that is what we talked about up here. Every resident broker, this is 850 place of business, needs to have a sign out front, right? And hours by appointment only. And if you're actively involved, you have to have a place of business. So that's what that's referring back to. You got to operate under that. Now, number two, they love this question here on the exam. Project, sales, leasing, or management offices maintained on site in an apartment building, developing project, duplex, apartment complex, court, office building, shopping center, or industrial development are not required to be registered as branch offices. So they love to pick these little things out like that, but they love questions from that little paragraph right there, okay? They'll give you a scenario, and it's in an apartment building, and do they have to register that as a branch office? No. or management offices maintained on site in an apartment building, development project, duplex, apartment complex, so forth. No. Now, what if you had a building and, for example, Co-op Anchor Gundaker at one time, I don't know if they still do, the top floor was their corporate offices. And down below, they had their branch office. They had a branch office. Does that need to be registered as a branch office? Yes, okay, it does, because even though it's in the building of where their corporate headquarters was located, still need to be registered. All right, we're going to move on over here. And talk about the sales manager very quickly. Pardon me. Make sure I'm still have audio. So, the sales manager, any licensee, well, I'm going to highlight this, any licensee who acts in the capacity of a sales manager or assistant sales manager for the broker shall be required to hold a broker salesperson license or be licensed as a broker partner, broker officer, officer, or broker associate. Just know, anytime you see the word manager or assistant sales manager, they need a broker's license, some sort of broker's license. Now, there was a question one time, someone asked me, they said, I saw a question about a broker wanted to open up a finance company and wanted to appoint a salesperson as the manager of the finance division in the office. Is that allowable? I would say no, because they use that word manager, okay? So if you see any kind of appointment of a salesperson as either a manager or an assistant manager, you've got to have a broker's license, all right? And they'll probably ask that question. Gosh, I'm helping you with a lot of questions here today. Number clerical personnel, you'll see a question over this. I mean, you just will, okay? Just know that. And it's very easy. The activities of unlicensed clerical or office employees of a broker shall be limited to the duties normally attributed to those positions, unless persons shall not do or attempt to do any of the activities set out under that. So can they, if they're unlicensed or office employees, they can't do activities in a real estate office? No. Now, you're going to see in the property management section, you will see in the property management section that unlicensed clerical or on-site property managers can do some activities under the property management rules, okay? They can show a property. They could collect a lease agreement. They can give out a broker disclosure form, and that constitutes disclosure as if the broker had done that. So there are some things clerical personnel on the property management side can do, but here we are talking about the real estate operations. Can an unlicensed clerical personnel give out the price on a property? No. Can an unlicensed clerical personnel give out the price to another agent because no other agents are in her office at the time? No. They cannot do any activities, and they love to slide these questions in where it's just another agent who just wants to know a little bit of information. Can they give that out? No. All right? But don't forget, under the property management side, there are some exceptions on what unlicensed clerical personnel or office employees can do for the broker. But on the real estate side, when I say real estate, on the sales side, I should say, cannot give any information out. And don't be fooled by one of those questions that, well, it's just another agent from another office and everybody's gone. Can she give the price out or he give the price out? No, okay, absolutely not. Or any of those other activities that could come up. So let's talk about display of license. Notice it says rescinded July 30th, 2023. So let's go over here. I thought I just saw something kind of interesting here. So that has been rescinded. And so I need to check back in my notes on that. But I'm not seeing anything on this rule originally filed, effective, and it was amended, and then rescinded, filed, whatever. So right now, what you need to know for display a license is we don't have to, I'm going to wait on that, but I don't think you'll see any questions on that, okay? Now, you are going to see some questions on advertising, and actually, I'm going to wait on this, and we'll pick up here in the next broadcast, which could be after lunch today. So that's why it's important to be sure and do what? You won't be able to see, you'll see a black screen when I do this, but that's why it's important for you to click on the bell at YouTube, go over there, subscribe, click on the bell, and each and every time I go live, you will know all about it, okay? So don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hey, I want to say thank you. I'm going to check very quickly and just make sure if there are any questions or comments. I'm not seeing any coming through, but if you, Eli says hello, and hello, Eli. Thank you for joining us. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. As always, thank you. Hope you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Be sure and check us out. If you can hang with me for just one more second, I'd love for you to be sure and go to globalrealestateschool.com. And well, I'll go right there. That's our support page. So you could go there and find out lots of questions. We are building a whole glossary there. And I'm going to just get rid of this index there. And would love for you to be sure and go to globalrealestateschool.com. See if that pulls it up there. I hope so. Well, there we are right there. So check us out there. We have courses that are approved in a number of states. If you did not go through Global Real Estate School, well, you can go up here to the home button, and right over here, I'm adding those, and you can actually, right now we have Missouri, we'll have other states there, but you can purchase all kinds of great questions I have for the Missouri exam. And then I also have a wonderful tool called the Ultimate Real Estate Exam Prep. You can add that to your cart, and there's over 500 questions, digital flashcards, videos, access to podcasts and other things. And then right here I was mentioning on Global Real Estate TV, you'll see this pop up here in a second because we're broadcasting live. And so when I do go live, you can watch it right here, or you can go over to, it's not showing up there now, but it was just, oh, I know why. I forgot. I need to go back over here to my board. That's why you couldn't see it. Should be able to see that now. So globalrealestateschool.com. I'll show you that again if you need help. If you did not go to our course, I've got lots of Missouri questions and other information you can purchase right there. Again, on the home screen, It's right under state-specific information, and you can get your real estate license in several states. A lot of people from Missouri and other places getting their Florida license through me, but hey, you can go to Hawaii, Indiana, check us out in all of those. Recently got approved in Utah. And then again, our Missouri, the ultimate real estate exam prep right there. And then here's what I was showing you when I just discovered I was offline, but you can see I have this ability for you to embed. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel here and then watch videos right there as well. Well, again, this was a live stream without me showing my face on screen because I'm still in my workout attire. I'm going to go do a quick workout and then mow the grass. But I appreciate you joining. Have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks again.